Recording in progress.
Yeah, I always wanted to do that. All right. Welcome to the Historic Preservation Architectural Review Commission meeting for Thursday, September 5th, 2024. I don't think we have any announcements. I don't have any. Janelle? Nothing?
I do not. No, thank you.
Thank you. John, anything? No?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. We don't have any minutes for approval from the previous meeting. Those will be available at our next meeting. And so that brings us to our first application, which is on the agenda is C1, discussion and possible action regarding H1324 on behalf of George Tsibouris and Patricia Alonso-Gamo for an addition to the left side of an existing one-story house, non-contributing, and for the replacement of a fence. The property is located at 42 Ship Carpenter Square, which is Sussex County Tax Map 335 807-327.00. The applicant or the representative come forward. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Brenda Jones, 123 East 3rd Street. So this is a house in Ship Carpenter Square, and we're doing a one-story addition to the left side of the house as it faces 4th Street. We already have the approval from the Ship Carpenter Community Homeowners Association. I don't know, do you need to know anything else?
You want to walk us through anything, just what your
Well,
thoughts were
the
on-
addition sits back, from the original house, as you can see on the survey. I guess you have a copy of the proposed built survey. It's like 1 foot behind the original house. It's 8.9 feet off of the left side. The addition is like 28 by 20, roughly, and it's 1 story, which is part of the rules in Ship Carpenter as well, as a matter of fact, for an addition. The materials, actually the inventory property said the materials were wood on the house, and that's not, apparently over the years it's changed, it is a hardy board. So the new addition would also be the hardy, and the shingles on the roof would be cedar shake to match the house. So real cedar shake. Window are Anderson 400 series, which are similar to what is in the current house. And the foundation has a brick veneer to match the original house. I think that's about all I have, maybe.
Any questions from?
I have a few. In the future, I guess these are preliminary drawings, which is what we should be talking about, I think, but maybe before the meeting, so you could have the permitted drawings here.
Right. Once the approval's given here, then the city will get permanent drawings.
Right.
Yeah.
I go back to we should have an informal meeting before then, though, and I'll take that up with the leadership here. But I'm upset that it's pulled so far forward. Is there any way you could push the whole thing back and still catch an entry from the library?
The reason why it is forward is because when you walk into the library, there's a perfect opening to get into this.
Are there two? Or there's a wall, okay. No.
Yeah. And that's also kind of interferes with the kitchen area too, so.
Well, I see the amount of windows on the kitchen and be ashamed to cover them, but it might be the opportunity for a great courtyard. And I'm not here to tell you what to do, that's for sure. But
Well, the windows in the kitchen will still be open to the courtyard.
right, but if I'm saying, gosh, if you could move this thing back to the other side of the fireplace, I'd be all over it.
Oh, well, yeah, then we would lose all those windows in the kitchen.
Oh, you'd still have a void between them, because part would be the breezeway, and you could always push more of the bathroom into the main body of the addition. But
Well, then, that courtyard between there would only be about 10 feet, in width. And I think you wouldn't get a whole lot of sun through there and/or airflow. It would be kind of sandwiched in there like a little alcove.
right, but as drawn, and as I already say, it'd be nice if we saw the whole front elevation. But as drawn, it's going to look remarkably like anything built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s in a Center Hall colonial development house. When you turn the gable and have a breezeway connected to it, it's screaming garage doors, too.
Well,
I'm only one vote, don't worry.
I respect your opinion. In order to get things to feel not so flat on the front of this house, because it is pretty flat,
Right.
we decided to make look like it was an addition built off of a historic house.
Yep.
And we changed the roof line.
Do you have any other questions?
However, if it were further back, we wouldn't be reading it from the street. And that 4th Street view of that house is beautiful right now. And I think this will detract from it. And that's the
Okay.
end of my questions, because I'm making statements.
I had one question.
Okay.
Brenda, there was a mention of replacing the fence, but the fence is right where the addition would be. Where's that fence? I didn't see it
So-
marked anywhere.
Yeah, so like if, did they get a copy of this?
We did.
Okay, this is so the fence.
I believe
need your
this little one?
microphone. Pretty
This one?
much that-
Bernie, could you stand at the microphone and?
So where that
Is-
X is there?
The fence is about halfway back
Yeah,
through the
about
addition?
halfway back. And that could fluctuate a little bit, just because there's some large trees there, and they're going to try to salvage as much as they can there with the trees. So that fence, may not even be possible to be put there, but it would be in kind to the fence that is there now, or perhaps it's a piece of that fence.
Sure. Okay, yeah, I just couldn't tell where the location was going to be. Ours is quite small, but
Okay.
thank you. That answers that.
This for the, it's a little laser pointer. You could use the one
great.
above us if you'd
Thank
like.
you.
Sure. Thank you, Alex. And Blue.
Brenda, you stated that the list of materials was originally wood, and then you realized that it's hardy board,
It is hardy.
and that you are going to match that hardy with the materials for the new structure. My question to you, and maybe to my colleagues, is that this is Ship Carpenter Square, and I know that there are some differences in how we handle structures in Ship Carpenter. But are we talking about one streetscape or two streetscapes? Because you can drive through Ship Carpenter Square, and I'm thinking that you would be able to see, I know there's a fence along the back, but you would still be able to see that new addition. I would just pose that as a question for consideration.
I think it was confirmed in an earlier meeting that because I asked that question.
Okay.
It indeed is a streetscape from both sides.
Okay.
It
That
has
is
two
true.
frontages as far as the deed's concerned.
Pardon me?
It'll have 2 frontages as far as the setback on the deeds,
Correct.
and the corner, too.
Yeah, this is a through lot with
Yeah,
a corner.
well, this addition is not seen from the Park Avenue, Ship
Right.
Carpenter Street side.
Nope.
My only comment would be, it's always so challenging with Ship Carpenter Square, because even though I think, it definitely has an important place in the city of Lewis, and particularly for visitors, identify it as a historic square, that it's non-contributing in the way that it's developed. So it's a very tough one. When I hear that when I read here that it was approved by the HOA, and I have sometimes heard that the HOA is more of a challenge than we are, at least in the past. I don't think in the present that is true anymore. But yeah, it is tough. I also looked at the plan and wondered how there could be more depth. But that's really the only input that I have, it does appear to be hardy board now, so you would just continue with that? Even though that's not one of our preferred materials?
You realize it's not recognized as contributing because it was moved.
Right.
Because it was moved,
But it
right.
was moved from Milford.
Yes, oh no, I totally know
And
that.
clearly, they could reapply, too.
Yes. Yeah, I do know the whole origin of ship carpenters and the evolution.
Yeah.
I did share the concern about the flatness. I think is it picking up? Yeah. I did share the concern about the flatness of the facade. But I do know there's other structures in town that do have additions that are even with the original part of the building. Is there any chance to bump it back any further? Without losing what you and the homeowners are trying to accomplish?
So it's really important to be able to get that walkway through that front to the left side of the fireplace. Now, this house does not have a first floor bedroom, and so it's necessary for them to get a bedroom into the first floor. And that was their chosen spot to put the addition.
And I would add to that, that is something that, also sitting on the housing committee, is something that we're seeing again and again here, because people want to stay in their homes in the historic district, but they would like to have a first floor master suite, and they would also like to have garages in some cases, and we have lost residents for those reasons. But so I do hear you on that. I do agree with the perspective. I honestly, when I looked at the drawings, not having your skilled eye, I was trying to
Locate where it was.
understand the depth perception on it.
Okay.
I didn't find that easy looking at the drawings as a novice.
Yeah, it shows 1 foot right there, but I can't see, so. Wouldn't it be possible to come out through that opening? Are there already library shelves on the other side of the fireplace? Or what?
There are library shelves there, and they preferred going in the front because it made it a little bit more private,
Right.
to go in the front side.
But if you walked into a hallway with just a simple shed roof and walked down 10 feet and then head up with the addition, or 9 feet in this case?
Because then I'd have to go, I can't go but, 0.9 feet to the left, so I can't make that addition any wider. So it would have to kind of go back straight back, like, instead of being 20 feet long, it might be then 35 feet long, which is going to create that tunnel through there and block off all the light flow to the kitchen.
I'm not so distressed by the way it's done, for a couple of reasons. One is I realize what you were trying to do in the plans, but second of all, it is a non-contributing structure. And our job is not to redesign things for people, it's to say, how would this look? I appreciate that you put it back a little bit, because I think that made a difference. But I think, the other picture showed that it's going from a 2-story house down to a 1-story, and I appreciated that, because I thought if it were 2-story, that would have just been far too much. But it looks very nice the way that it's done. I don't have any problem with that.
Are there any additional questions from the commission? Anybody like to make a motion regarding this application?
I'll make a motion. Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept this application as complete. The property is in a historic district, but it's a non-contributing structure. The materials are consistent with a non-contributing structure that is there already. And I think the proposed changes don't really have a big effect on the streetscape of this street, because there are many big houses on this side of the street, and I appreciate the fact that it has been brought down in scale a little bit with the addition.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
We do vote and then ask everybody to, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Abstain. All right. Would you like to start?
So my reasons are for what I stated. I think that it was, I understand the need for an addition to some houses, and again, if this were a historic structure, that might be a different kind of impact on the way I would think about it, but I realize it's not designated that way, and so I think I was fine with that.
Thank you.
I have no problem with the design. I think given the constrictions, it's fine.
I approve the application because I think there's a precedent for this in Ship Carpenter Square for this type of an addition, and that it was approved by the HOA, and the materials already exist, so I am okay for that. There is one thing that I could say that you could certainly have an opportunity. This is more of just a, hey, what about, that you have an additional building or additional structure that you're adding on. I've seen in some cases where they'll put kind of a faux door to make it look like it really was an additional building, or some sort of just additional, I don't know, just a little something to make it extra special.
Okay.
I vote to approve for the reasons stated by Deb. I had some concerns about the materials, but I absolutely understand that it has been approved by the HOA, and I understand the reason why you're making that decision. So I do vote to approve.
You have to give a reason why you're abstaining?
Be happy to. You don't have to. Well, my concerns are still there. That's why I abstained, because I didn't want to be the one person saying no to you. But it would look 1,000 times better if it was pushed back. And it is a historic structure. It lost that classification because it was moved. It doesn't stop them. They could apply right now and get it back, but probably not once they do that addition.
Well, there are several additions on that house. That is
Oh, I agree.
not all the
The
original
back is
structure.
loaded. How many square feet are they going to have when they're done, too?
I
A
don't
lot.
even know. I mean,
But, the other neighbors on,
pardon me?
We're in the middle of a vote.
Yeah, you can't have a discussion.
I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just.
okay, I'll just say the other houses on the street do conform, and they have to look at it, and it's going to look like it's in a development. I'm done.
Okay.
I vote to approve based on comments of other commissioners. So, thank you, Brenda.
Thanks. Thank you.
And between applicants, I would also like to say, there's nothing wrong with being the no vote.
No.
In the what?
Being the sole no vote. Janelle and Alex could,
I've been
I'm
too hard-
often,
I've been too hard on Brenda already, so.
I'm often the sole no vote on the LPC.
The next item on the agenda is C2, discussion and possible action regarding H-14-24 on behalf of Barbara Sade for installation of a brick face on the front entrance steps, fascia, and landing on a contributing structure. The property is located at 124 McPhee Street, Sussex County Tax Map 335-8.11-1930.00.
Boy. Hi, thank you for letting me come in tonight. I've never approached this meeting before, so it's kind of exciting. Anyway, I live on 124 McPhee, which is about 6 blocks from here. I have a cement step, as you can see in the front of my house, and I'm hoping to brick face it. And I have samples, too, if you like to see it. But,
And I'm sorry, for the recording, could you tell us your name?
and forgive me, because I should let you guys know, I do have a hearing impairment and a
Okay.
cochlear. If you talk all at once, I'm
Sure.
not going to understand. But
Yeah,
thank you.
for the recording, if you could give us your name?
Oh, yes, Barbara Sade. Okay.
Great, yeah.
We're good. Okay, I just want to brick face the front and repair the cement steps. If you look in your pictures, I'm hoping you have them.
We have them all.
Oh, great. Okay, let me look and see what mine looks like. Hang on. Oh, wait a minute, I think I got the, I'm sorry, I got the wrong folder here.
Take your time.
Thank you.
So this was news to me, I have to say, this application. Are we to understand, I'll rely on Mike on this, that it was a church?
Yep.
Okay, because I did not know that
It
before I
was,
reviewed
and
this.
more interesting, it was the Lewis Senior Center
Right.
in 1990 when I purchased it. And
You
my
know, I know the
ex-husband-
house, but.
You do?
I do, yes.
I love it. And my ex-husband is a craftsman carpenter that specialized in historic preservations. But as you can see, not much other than painting the front has been done, and I just wanted to try to improve the steps by putting brick. I provided some pictures that show my neighbors. I think your first set of pictures might be the cement steps, right? I need some repair on them, so I don't think that's, I'm not changing any of the structure, other than maybe perhaps replacing the wrought iron that's rusted out, the railing.
And
I
what
don't-
would
I
that,
don't- I
what
don't
would that
have to, but-
railing look like? Would it look like what's
It would
there?
look like that, depending on what I'm allowed to do. I mean, I'd like to keep the same look, but maybe a less expensive alternative for the railing, like a black railing that represents wrought iron. If I have to do wrought iron, I'll do wrought iron. That would come at a later date, too, because I'm just looking to brick the front.
Could I ask Janelle for clarification on that, the railing issue?
So the railing, that could actually, so the railing issue could actually be handled chair and staff. And again, if that is, which is how this started, it did not get approved as for chair and staff, and it is now before the entire commission. So again, the railing, based on the cost, would meet a requirement for chair and staff, so that can be handled at a later time.
Okay, great, thank you.
Barbara, do you happen to have any photographs of the building? Because it's coming up on 100 years old, and I think because it was a senior center and a church before that, I'm thinking wedding pictures. I'm thinking there had to be something that will be a great resource for you to document the history of this
Yeah.
building and what and to take it back to what it was. That will be a guideline or some
I don't
ideas?
have any pictures of when it was a church. I wish I did. In fact, if anybody happens to know anyone that can supply that, that would be lovely. I would love to do that. But I don't have any on hand, if that's what you're asking for tonight's meeting. I'm just simply looking to replace the front.
And you said you had a sample with you?
Pardon me?
You said you had a sample with you?
I did, yeah. You want me to like mess around?
And that's what you'll be using, the veneer,
Face it.
not full brick. Good, let me see one.
And I'm hoping for this color as well.
Which, the color that you handed me?
I'm sorry.
This color, right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because I mean, I like preservation, and I've ridden through, oh, let me go back there, I'm sorry. I've ridden through town, and I've looked at the brick. I have several neighbors on my street that have brick steps.
Oh,
I
the
just
brick
want to
would-
kind of match it.
The brick would be very appropriate. Right now, you have painted
think
cinder
so.
block.
Right.
So are you going to do the bottom of the front of the building, or just the stairs?
No, just the facing of, what you see is a maroon colored.
Okay. I'd
face.
encourage you-
I just want
I'd
to do the
encourage you to use it on the
facing of
green,
the
too.
steps.
I'd encourage you to take it further back, but obviously money is
Well,
money.
I would love to take it further back, but
Yeah.
that'll have to be another time when I can afford it.
Right. Well, maybe
know.
if you could, you probably should be buying enough brick to do all of it, so you get it from the same die lot. And then
I-
just store it.
I believe that it's, sorry, what's your question?
I was just making a recommendation, which is not my
Oh,
job,
and what's
but I
that?
would buy enough brick to do everything you intend to do in
Oh.
the future, because the
Right,
next year
if
it'll
we
be a
wanna
different die
match it.
lot, or it might
That's a
even be
good point.
discontinued.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree
That's a
that,
good point, yeah.
that it would look fabulous to,
Yes, it
not
would.
to do
Thank
the
you.
foundation in brick
Yeah.
all around would
Wouldn't that
really
be
be lovely.
At least the front, anyway. I agree.
Had you considered to use full brick?
Couldn't.
Canned?
You
Well,
wouldn't be able to tie it into the siding. This is going to be difficult enough to tie it into the siding.
yeah, there's, I don't think it's necessary to use
Right.
full brick. In fact, it might even impede on the sidewalk more that way.
Right.
So that's why I went with this.
Okay.
Which looks just as good, I think. I mean, that's my opinion.
That's done right, it looks great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think.
I'd encourage them to try to point it, though, bring it flush,
Yeah.
don't just stick it on on the backing cement. Hopefully, they'll come back and work the joints, too.
Yes.
And I had one question. It was about this sketch.
The door?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that is not the door that's there now. Is
When
that?
When I
a s-
talked with John, I originally asked if, about putting brick in my, when you look at those three front doors, the storm doors, my
Right.
foyer and my front door is actually behind those doors. And I believe that's in the pictures too. Let me check, hang on. Wait a minute.
So we'd call that room in narthex.
Right. If it was a church.
Well,
it was a church.
I know.
Those doors
If it were
were put in temporarily, and behind those doors is, like I said, my foyer, where my front door is. I wanted to originally bring the brick into the floor of that foyer, but then I realized it was getting too complicated, so now I'm just here to ask permission to brick the front of the steps, and then go from there.
I thought maybe you were also, as a longer-term project, looking to replace that entire entry, which.
No,
Okay.
I'm not planning, I might remove those storm doors, but I'm not replacing anything.
This is beautiful. That's-
Thank you. I invite you guys to come and take a tour one day.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful home.
Thank you.
I really like it. Does anybody want to see, are you okay with this?
Yeah, it's okay.
Are there any additional questions? Commission?
Okay.
I appreciated the photos that you provided. I did go down McPhee, and I saw at least 8 houses, if not 9, that have very similar brick entrances
I
and
agree. I didn't
stairs
realize
and
that until I
walkways.
was on this project. Yeah.
Yeah, and suddenly
Yeah.
you see them everywhere on McPhee, right? So thank you for those.
Thank you.
I wanted to commend you for your drawing. That was helpful, and also the yellow house threw me initially, because then I couldn't find the yellow house.
Oh, I
Wait, it's
know,
painted
you have a
green.
good memory. I recently had it painted. and-
But I would also commend you, and I would do this, is test drive the paint on those steps to see how you felt about that before you're bricking it, to get that sense of this is the color, this is the intensity. So I just wanted to commend you for kind of experimenting
thank
with
you.
that. Sure.
Thank you for reading my mind on that one. I appreciate it.
Is there a motion regarding this application?
I move to approve the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yay.
Would you like to
Thank you
start the?
very much.
Larry, your reason?
Well, I went to McPhee also, and there are bricks everywhere, and so, and given the budget restraints, I think it's a great project. It's okay.
I appreciate the fact that it's going to make the building look so much better than what it does now.
think
So
so,
I
too.
see why you wanted to do that. And it does fit the rest of the street, because there are lots and lots of bricks and foundations on that street.
Absolutely. Deborah?
I vote to approve it as
Thank you.
well. I would encourage you to embrace the church senior
Seal.
center font. See if you can find some of those pictures, because it'll be a great resource.
I will.
And really
Yeah.
go back to that if you can.
Just for your information, the church was the Midway Assembly of God, which is on Highway 1. It was their original church, and I intend to go to them and invite them in as well, maybe, for their anniversary or something like that. It'll be fun, yeah.
I voted to approve because, one, we're supposed to encourage the use of brick over cinder block.
Oh,
And-
good.
And
That's good to
two, it'll be a great improvement, and I can't wait to
It
see it.
will, thank you.
Deb?
I also vote to approve it. I want to say, often it's someone else, professionals, contractors, putting together these packets. So as the homeowner doing it, thank you, that was a lot of work. I think that it's very appropriate to the street, and it's going to be a vast improvement. And if, down the line, it ever comes up that you could continue to wrap around, I think it would just continue to improve
That's in the plans,
the
yeah.
aesthetics of it.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And also, the railings are very pretty.
They're very pretty, but they're rusting. They're almost ready to go. But, I would love to save them if I could.
if there was some place who could restore
Yeah,
them.
I mean, there might be. I happen to be
Is
friends with a welder, George Plummer. Maybe I can get them to fix, I'm not sure yet. I haven't looked into that,
Thank you.
but I will definitely do my best to preserve them. Yeah.
I also vote in the affirmative, and for the reasons given, but I would like to, again, echo what Deb said about preparing this yourself. Thank you for
welcome.
doing that. Thank you for taking the time and for caring and putting together a nice application. And I agree about the comments regarding the brick on McPhee Street and elsewhere. And I wrote myself a personal note to see if I can track down any pictures, because I know I've seen them before of that
good.
building.
That would be great.
Maybe not 100 years ago, but earlier pictures.
I have a
of
feeling
the
maybe the church might themselves.
may.
I need to approach
may.
them. Yeah, that's a
So-
good plan.
I think with that, there was approval for brick facing the stoop.
And Barbara, when you do decide what you're going to do with the railings, please come back to the chair and staff, which should be able to take care of that.
Okay.
Right.
Without coming to a meeting.
Oh, that's
Right.
nice to hear.
But that way,
Okay.
they
Thank
have an
you.
idea of what the whole project is looking like
Wonderful.
at the end.
And
Okay.
I would just
Appreciate it.
add that the reason it came to the full commission is because since it affected the facade and the view from the street.
understand.
The chair felt that it was appropriate for the full
Yeah.
commission to hear. So,
Thank you.
Get it.
thank you.
Thank you. Are we done?
All right, we're finished.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
You'll be getting something from John, too. Thank you.
Oh, and what exactly do I do now at this point? Do I have to
You'll get,
collect?
you'll see
I
John. John will be
will
in touch.
process the permit application and let you know when it's ready to pick up.
Okay, great.
And then you get started.
I look forward to hearing from you then.
Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you, guys.
The next application is C3, discussion and possible action, including the possible scheduling of a public hearing regarding H-15-24 on behalf of, I hope I'm going to say this right, Melcena Garry Clemmons, to allow for a new foundation. The installation of a new foundation requires the house to be elevated. Once the new foundation is installed, the house will be lowered back to the original height. It's a contributing structure. The property is located at 131 Franklin Avenue and is Sussex County Tax Map 335-8.08-81.00. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm Garry Clemmons. I'm the Melcena of Melcena Garry
Oh, I'm
Clemmons.
sorry, there was a
It's in the tru-
ampersand, okay.
No, it's
Oh,
in the
okay,
trust
okay.
name, so that's why you see the full name. So I own the property that you see there in front of you. That's the before picture. Since we're in renovation now, there's an after that is not included. And I'm here tonight with my contractor, Matt Harris. So he's a co-owner of Blue Thumb Builders. So as you can see from that printout, this is from the recent historical architectural surveys. My house was built in 1900, and we had an initial permit to renovate it for aging in place. Brenda and I presented to the H Park in August of '23, and the original permit was granted in September '23. During the next period of time, I was looking for a contractor. That's when I found Matt and his brother Eric, and they started working in July of this year. And that's when we discovered that we had a foundation that needed to be replaced. And Matt's going to tell you a little bit about the technical details, but please feel free to ask any questions as we go along. So over to you.
All right, so I'm Matt Harris, Gary's builder.
Do we have
So
your address, Matt?
my address?
Yeah, we usually ask for name and address when someone comes up.
20579 State Forest Road, Georgetown, Delaware,
Thank you.
United States. So, as Gary mentioned, we started demo as far as removing the siding, and we discovered that the house was literally sitting on the ground, especially if you're facing the house on the left-hand side. Actually, it's below grade. We had to dig a trench along that side to find the top of the foundation. And of course, the bricks, you literally can just grab the bricks and just, the mortar's just gone. And there's no footing. We did a little hole just to see if there's no footing, which I expected. That's typical. So what we're proposing is, in the effort to preserve the structure, to get it off the ground, and obviously it needs a foundation, needs a proper foundation of some sort. What was approved for the rest of the house was block foundation with stucco. And so we're proposing to do the same thing to continue that around the house. That's essentially it.
I do have one thing to add I should have said before now. The house is not going to be lowered.
Would you go to the microphone,
Oh,
please?
sure. The house is not going to be lowered to the same level because it has to be raised.
What's the flood elevation of the current first floor? Do you know?
What's the current what?
Elevation of the first floor?
It's a few inches off the ground?
No. Relative to sea level.
Oh, no, I don't know that.
Be interesting. I think you're probably way high enough to be permitted, but
Well, the issue, if I may, is that my neighbor's house is very close to mine. I don't know if you are aware of the white brick house that was renovated, I think year before last. There's a 12-inch change in elevation between their house and the left side of my house, and the water has come, we assume, over the years down into the beam that holds up the left side of the house. And so I misunderstood and thought that we would just be able to lower it, but we really can't. We've got to add 12 inches to bring everything up to grade.
that's where I was going.
Yeah.
And I have a similar problem on my house. They buried one side of it completely.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he does, and we'll call him up.
Yeah. He's done great so far.
So far, I've just messed stuff up.
I was going to ask that question because the agenda said it was going to be lowered.
Yeah,
but
that's a
I noticed
mistake.
the application didn't call for that, and neither did the change order.
That's a mistake.
So you're raising it 1 foot?
1 foot.
Correct. And the
You really
current,
ought to figure out what the elevation is.
the current height of the house, the roof height is 26.42.
Yeah.
So we've got some room to lift it. And the streetscape, both houses on either side of me are visually much higher than my house. Also, my house is very small. I mean, it's 960 square feet, right? It's basically 3 rooms. So I don't think on the streetscape it'll be a big change visually for people.
Not one bit.
Right.
One concern I would have is, I certainly understand what you're up against.
Right.
But from the commission's mission, if that's not, I don't know if that's the right word, our charge is, if it were raised, I think that might undermine its contributing status if it's not put back at the same level. I don't know that for a fact.
Why?
And I was not able to verify that before or after. So raising it, moving it, certainly as we talked about earlier with certain houses in Lewis, make structures non-contributing. And it's not being moved laterally.
It's a vertical move.
It's a
Right.
vertical height. And I know that we had something similar to that on the beach, but that was because FEMA required that for
Correct.
whatever.
And they might here, Depending on the elevation.
Yeah, I'm thinking
I draw
usually,
11 foot.
usually this part of town
Is high.
is high. It's
I
not
agree.
in the
So-
flood
I
zone.
agree,
Yeah,
because
this-
my house is not in the flood zone.
Yeah, this area is not in the flood zone. It's just,
The grades of the new houses on either side of it have been raised, and that's what happens when you're the first house there.
Let's just say the house sunk a foot.
Yeah.
So we're trying to bring it back
May
up.
well have. Probably did work its way into the ground over the years.
Frankly, I'm putting on my planning commission hat here a little bit, and I'm more concerned that a neighbor's house caused damage.
Yeah, they're not meant to put water on you. But
No.
you got to live next to them, too.
Well, I think that house has been there since 1950, so, would be hard pressed to make a claim in that area. But you can really see it when you look at it. I'm sorry we don't have pictures of that, but trust us, it's like this.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now on Google Maps.
Yeah.
And you can see it.
Yeah.
Well, we do have some resources that we can tap to find out if indeed, according to Secretary Interior's guidelines or SHPO would probably be able to give us some, the State Historical Preservation Office should be able to give us some good insight as to whether it have any impact on it being a contributing structure.
Okay.
But knowing how much they've had to deal with sea level rise all around the country and many, many historic homes being saved, they had to raise them, or they had to do other things to save them. So
Yeah.
I would suggest that we move ahead as if it's going to not affect until we find out anything different, if we can, would be my suggestion. Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept this application for the raising of the house. Looks to be 12 inches as the new foundation is built underneath it. The property is in the historic district. It is a contributing structure to the history of Lewis. The materials will be consistent with what should be on a foundation, and the appearance, and certainly match the streetscape as well. It wouldn't have any significant effect on changing the streetscape but a necessary move.
Thank you.
I would second that.
What is the, our options to find out whether that would impact the contributing status of the building at this point?
SHPO or Chad would be a good resource at this point to figure out that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're permitted to do that? Okay. All right.
What is triggering, or in the description of our action tonight, is scheduling a public hearing?
My understanding is that if we did elect to allow it to be raised, it would have to go to a public hearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
I have a question. Just listening, is there any way that you can provide evidence of how far the house is sunk, which would help in the raising of the house?
You're saying from the
Yeah.
SHPO perspective, right?
Well, either, it's probably, a lot of these houses sink down into the sand over the years. They didn't have really good footers, and plus with the water added from the neighbors, this soil here gets pretty spongy. And I don't know if there's any way to document how high it was, because it may have sunk a foot, or
And you could certainly make the case then that you are doing restoration rather than changing.
Yeah.
Any way
I
to,
guess,
any
Matt, you're the
suggestions
one
on-
we should look after
you.
this. Were you being facetious when you said the house sunk, or do you think that they've actually built up the
Well,
land
I'm
next
sure
to
it
it?
sunk some, but I doubt it.
12
I mean,
inches.
realistically, typically, I'm just being honest, if the house sunk that much, it's usually not the whole house, right, together. So
Right.
it is crooked, but it's not like dropped a foot on one side. So no doubt it has come down to some degree, but it's not drastic, I wouldn't think.
So if we could back up on this motion for just a moment, might make it a moot point.
So if you want to.
Maybe, Alex, you should explain
happy
the legal side of it.
So this really comes down to the definition of demolition is very broad. And John, I don't mean to speak for you if anything comes up that you want to chime in on. So this is a contributing structure, and the definition of demolition is very broad. It includes disassembling a structure, even if you're putting it back together. So staff has determined that raising it to put in a new foundation is a partial demolition. And a contributing structure cannot be demolished without a public hearing. And is that correct?
That is the history.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
And so-
have precedent
Yeah.
for a public hearing for other houses in the district that have had foundation issues.
So,
Is there any room to just cut a swale between the neighbor that would drain to somewhere, like the street out back or the street out front?
The side of the house is the neighbor's exit to the street. They have a gate
Between the two houses, how
between
much?
the two houses. That's
Right,
one
but
of the-
between the two houses, how much space is there?
What would you say, about 5 feet maybe?
yeah, 5
That's it?
feet or so.
Yeah,
Not much.
Lots of
You
luck
can see in
then.
that picture, it's
No,
very
that
close.
ain't gonna happen.
The foundation on the house on the left-hand side facing the white brick house just about does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
So action has to be taken, something has to be done.
And as far as the hearing, and I'm not being smart, but what's the purpose of the hearing? Like, what, just,
It's required by code just to take in evidence more formally. It's not this commission just deciding today they want to do that. It's just because the code says we have to.
I understand, but just in the spirit of the code, like the purpose of it, getting the public involved. If the public it's underground, the foundation is completely buried.
Well,
Who-
and that may very well
care?
come out. I mean, that obviously will come out in a public hearing. It's that, and I wasn't quite sure if that is how that was going to be interpreted, but I thought it probably would, because it'd be separated from its foundation. They would consider that demolition under the description of the law. So the public hearing could be very brief. It could be, oh, there it is, we've had a public hearing, anybody? And they go, nope, that foundation looks terrible. Great, change it. But it meets the law before, but that would have to happen then before we could even have a motion
That's right.
to do this.
A public hearing requires 15 days of public notice. So if you could amend your motion to set a public hearing, that would be the best way to move forward.
Before we go forward, can I ask one question? I also sympathize with the homeowner. I'm assuming you are still living in the house perhaps, or no?
Oh, no. No.
Okay.
It's been, yeah.
Okay, just because your work is getting held up on this
Thank
and you have a crumbling foundation.
Thank you.
But is there any way that we can waive the public hearing, or that is not a legal option?
Can I say something?
Before you even answer that, if the house was going back at the exact same location, we'd still need a demo permit.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with raising it.
Yeah, it's a very broad definition.
Right, and that's-
demolition.
Well, you can't fix a foundation that never had a footing. It has nothing but hydrated lime for cement, probably.
Not that this matters, but I'm going to say it anyway. So my brother and I, we are committed to this project, right?
Yeah, and your schedule.
We've been a month
Right.
without work now.
Great.
And we've taken on some little jobs that we can do, but we can't commit to anything because I'm committed to this. If you push me off another month, I'm going to have a problem. I'm just saying.
Well, I can assure you that it's not a choice we're making. It's a matter of
the code.
what the code says we have to do.
And my question would be, again, regarding the contributing status of the building. How does that play into the public hearing and our ability to do anything now or then?
So that can be something that's discussed during the public hearing. You have some time, with the 15 days of notice, we'll probably have the public hearing in a couple weeks. And you have some time to research whether it's a contributing status or not.
Could I ask, Alex, from a legal opinion, I know we can't waive the public meeting, that's probably too much. Can we shorten that 15 days for this purpose so that the next meeting could actually begin with a very short public meeting on the 18th?
I don't think we can in this particular instance. In general, mayor and city council can amend the code to change this moving forward, but a public hearing does require 15 days of notice.
When would that be? What would the date of the public
It would be the October meeting,
Okay.
because that is their next normal meeting date.
How about
and
a
that
not
give-
normal meeting in 15 days?
Honestly, I need like 20 days because if we have to run an ad in the newspaper, we have to do it. And I need several extra days because tomorrow is the deadline for the next, today was the deadline for the next Tuesday. Tuesday is the next deadline for the Friday. So it unfortunately would be the October meeting.
Well, that will put Matt and his brother and the construction of my house out of commission for 2 months. So I'm hearing from you that it's just too bad. That's the way it is. Is that
Are you
right?
going to lift it yourself, or did you have a son?
I have one of the Davidson brothers is going to do it, yeah. But I haven't even scheduled him yet. I had him tentatively scheduled until we found out all
Is the
this.
interior gutted and ready for all your work?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say put the steel under it and jack it up.
No.
You didn't say that, but,
No, I hopefully didn't get on the right.
and I didn't nod.
That's
Well,
what
I
we
understand
want to do.
completely. I've been
I-
a contractor for 50 years, you can't just make up the next month's work. It's gone.
No.
And that's
No.
your profit for the year.
You really can't.
Well, and I
And
may lose Matt. That's the thing that concerns me because he has to take other work. So it's a real problem.
so we've established that the public hearing has to be. But is there alternatives on how to publicize the public hearing?
No,
I
that's
mean,
all right.
does the 5 days, is that in stone, or is that just the normal? Is there an alternative? Can we get it, can we rush that?
So the 15 days is in code.
Right,
And
but what about the 5 days before the 15? And why can't we have a public hearing that's not typically held, on the normal schedule, just to expedite things?
Yeah, I think that's our only request. Is there any way to expedite this?
Because honestly, the public hearing is going to be a
The next
formality.
meeting, based on if the legal ad would run next Friday. Hold it. The earliest you could have it is September 30th, which is 2 days before your normal meeting, or 3 days before your normal meeting.
And even if the public hearing were held, we wouldn't be taking any action, because there's not a meeting anyway.
Correct,
So we would have to wait till the 2nd to take any action.
correct.
And to give a little further explanation, and it's really unfortunate for you, and is that we are really strictly bound by the FOIA regulations, and I guarantee you that I understand your plight and how difficult this is, but someone else will come around in 2 months if we do this and say, well, I want to build this great big project, and you gave it to them. And we need to stick to the FOIA regulations.
I have a
John.
question. I have a question. If you're going to be raising the house, you're not raising the house, correct?
No.
A subcontractor?
Subcontractor.
Okay, so so they can keep the project moving ahead, they're not demolishing the house, but lifting it. Can they go ahead with the lift and then don't do anything to the foundation until the hearing? The house would be in the air, waiting for the moment so that they could start the foundation, whether it's going to be at level or above level, all that detail. But that would allow them to continue to progress forward with the project, because the raising the house, I don't think would require a demolition permit, would it?
I think that
That is the definition
That
of
is the
demolition.
Demolition
You're
is very
separating the
broad.
house from the
Okay, I
foundation,
thought it
and
was the
that's why the
demolition of the
legal,
foundation.
definition came in.
Can we clarify then? If the house was being set back at the exact elevation that it is today, is it not demolition?
It is still
It
demolition.
would still be demolition and reconstruction.
Okay. And
That's
for
the
John,
way the code is written.
John, have you been to the property?
Several times.
Okay, I'm only from the street because I didn't want to trespass.
Right.
But
Me
we
too.
can't just say it's unsafe? And
In its
expedite
current condition.
Jacking it up? It's unsupported right now.
One side of the.
Yeah, it's just, you
Yeah.
can see
Well, I'd
right
like
through
So
it.
I think for safety's sake, we should be putting the steel under it and start jacking it, you know?
I'd like to
I think
speak to
that might
that.
be beyond the purview
Of
of this
HBAR, sure,
commission,
that-
too.
That is,
Yeah,
Something
beyond.
we could talk to.
right.
Well, just for margin notes, walk by the house or stop by sometime, and you'll see the state that it's in. It's really basically held together by chains and a laminated beam that Matt's team put in underneath the house to hold it together. The front porch is chained up through the upstairs window to the roof rafters to keep it from falling off the building. You know, my concern is that a lot of damage could occur to the existing structure over the winds and the rains as we get closer into fall. I realize that there's no way out of this from your point of view, but I just want to let you know that it's in a very fragile situation and needs to be fixed quickly somehow.
Is there any precedent for emergency situations in this? Is there, just digging deep, because, you know, I'm worried too that nor'easter season is coming, and I don't think you have anything but sympathy sitting here.
Yeah, thank you.
But
Yeah, I've
we,
walked by, I've seen the condition of the house. I know what it's in.
I remember
I think
approving
you're
your
describing
original.
it quite
I
well.
remember approving your original.
Yeah, and that it was, you know, thank you for being so modest, and the entire project was so in keeping with your tiny little house over there. And is there anything that can be done?
So that aspect is outside the purview of this commission, so it's something that the building department and Ellen Lorraine, the city manager, could look at, and they could look at that quickly, but it's not something that can be done here today, unfortunately.
Could we request that?
We'll look into it.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
So what's the proper procedure from here? Do we
Push this off to the next meeting.
defer it and then
I think we
schedule a
need to
public
schedule a
hearing?
public meeting.
Yeah.
I'm
we
going
do
to guess
have
you're going to want to schedule a public hearing for Thursday, October 3rd at 6 PM.
Okay.
And I'm going to guess at wherever your normal, at a
Wherever
meeting
will be
place,
held.
because, yeah.
And so we do have a motion on the table. Does that need to be amended or rescinded?
As the maker of the motion, I rescind the motion. And
Yeah.
Sure, she's-
So I rescind my seconding.
I think to schedule that public hearing does not need a motion, does it? It is a chair.
It should be a motion.
Should be a motion, okay.
Just for clarity.
All right.
Then, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Then I make a motion on this application that it seems to be requiring a public meeting at the soonest possible time would be October 3rd at 6 PM at whatever location the H Park meeting happens to be in. It would be the first, it would occur before our regularly scheduled H Park meeting.
Correct.
In order to resolve this as quickly as possible.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Deborah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank
I
you.
think thank you. Thank you for your understanding.
Can I ask when, now that it's not appropriate, but when did you discover the foundation was a problem?
When we pulled the siding off and when we pulled the floor out.
About
because
when and date-wise, though?
Oh, it's been.
End of July?
Yeah.
It was like the beginning of the fourth week.
Well,
of
that's when we
July.
started, right?
Yeah, but you had Bob come out the very last week in July.
It was the last week in July.
Yeah, so it's been 6 weeks this week.
Already?
Yeah, already.
Yeah.
So,
Often in these situations, we go by and look at these things. As I said, I didn't go up on the property either, except for a trespass.
Larry went
But
up.
I looked right underneath your house to the, what's behind it. If there were any other way we could have done this differently, believe me, we would have done it.
Thank you.
Thank
Neither
you
this
so much.
commission nor the city of Lewis
Thank you,
endorses
Sarah.
trespassing. Thank you. Yeah. The next item on the agenda is C4, discussion and possible action regarding H-16-24 on behalf of Elizabeth McCaffrey for removal of siding and installation of smart siding on a non-contributing property which is located at 512 Railroad Avenue, Sussex County Tax Map 335-8.11-162.00. Hi. Could you introduce yourself with your address to him?
Justin Travis, 22625 Pine Haven Drive, Georgetown, Delaware. Sorry, excuse my voice. Basically, we're just here to re-side the place. Trim's all staying the same, siding, reveal staying the same, and the color is prairie clay that's in your file. It's LP Smart Side. It's a lap siding. It looks exactly how the house will look as it is now. Oh, no, that's not the house. I didn't even look up there.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is. You just got it. You got it. Just different siding. Just new siding.
Questions or comments?
Were you restoring the siding on the face of the building, the street face?
Every single part of the house.
So the original wood siding that's there will be
taken off.
You
And
think there's sheathing behind it?
No, it's probably,
That's probably
5/4
the
board or
sheathing,
something, yeah.
Well, we're meant to encourage you to restore the siding when it can be restored.
Well, you mean restore the siding that's there? How would you restore the siding?
Sand it, epoxy it, pet it primer.
Is that new? Is that something new that we've been doing? Because, I mean,
We've
I just got
certainly never
approved for the
have
same
approved-
siding,
we've never
not but like
approved-
6 months ago.
We've never approved that I'm aware of, Georgia Pacific or LP,
I did.
Not on the
208
front
East
of a
Market-
building.
208 East Market Street.
Yeah.
For a non-contributing structure?
For non-contributing as well.
Contributing structure, it has to go back to wood.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but this is a non-contributing structure.
From 1989.
So
gotcha.
you
Okay.
can, this allows for alternative materials if you so choose. If you believe the material is appropriate.
May I ask, you're doing this for aesthetic purposes, just change up the
Well, we want,
color?
I mean, it's been on there a long time, and we want to make sure everything underneath is good. If there's any rot, we want to, we want to fix the substrate of anything underneath of it. And then, yeah, like I said, it just needs to be freshened up, basically. There's a little bit of rot here and there on the outside as well, so.
And there's no window replacement, the windows are all
No
staying
windows, no
as...
trim, nothing. That's what, that's all I applied for on the permit.
Did you consider replacing like with like, back to wood?
Cost permitting. I mean, it is wood. It's just a different type of wood, but it's not, I mean, the house next to it, if you see the house next to it is hardy, so. And I mean, I feel like this stuff is definitely more on the lines of looking more historical, because the hardy, you can't get the smaller laps like this here.
What's the exposure?
It's about 4 and 7/8, somewhere around there.
Okay, 'cause Hardy's 5.5,
Yes.
so it would work.
That's different.
I would say, I do agree that the exposure for hardy is, you can tell that it's
It's
wide.
larger. If you look at
Well,
that's
let's
why we
do
put
let's do
the
it.
different pictures of the neighboring houses in there, if you want to look.
Could you come up and speak into the
Can I
microphone?
speak to that about
Could you
the
identify
hard?
yourself with your name and
I'm
address,
Elizabeth McCaffrey. It's
You
my
can move
house.
the mic too.
It's my
It move-
house.
Oh, it moves.
There you go.
There you go.
Anyway, the problem with the Hardy, and from not from Justin, but from a different contractor, I was also told that to use the Hardy properly, I'd have to straighten all my lines out, and I don't want to lose my embellishment. I want it to look exactly like it looks. It was built in 1989 to look this way, I want it to stay looking this way. I don't want it to look like the house next door, which she just had up, which is a truly old house, and now looks like it could be built across the street in Old Town. And I don't want my house to look like that. So I'm
Hence the
trying
preservation.
to preserve the aesthetic, very much so. I'm sorry. I just thought I had to.
I have a question for the professionals among us on structural materials. I looked online and looked at LP, this material, and it says not rated for structural use. Is that construction use?
No, it means you have to have plywood sheathing behind it.
Oh, okay.
Or equal.
Okay,
Yeah, it can't hold the structure
If it was
together.
built in '89, it was probably sheathed.
okay,
It hadn't been, actually.
okay.
It's a good question, though.
That's a really good question.
And actually, I'm going to follow up on hardy board. Is it the same way, or is that, does that also require sheathing?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what
And
I-
they're nailing standards that you have to follow to get the wind rating. And I think we're what, in
Right.
the 110 zone. And
We're quiet from this side of the table.
what lengths do you know the smart siding comes in?
16-foot lengths.
Cool. So that's better than hardy.
It is.
Initial comments or concerns or questions from the commission regarding this application?
My only comment would be to anyone looking in the future, if we approve the LP, the smart side, it is because this is not a contributing.
Right, non-contributing
And
structure.
that needs to be out there loud and clear to anyone who has a contributing that comes forward, that you know, the bell won't ring twice. So, you know, don't use this as an example in the future. Only because we have this, time and time again, that someone will come up and say, well, you used it for 512 Railroad Avenue, so on the record, 512 Railroad Avenue is not contributing and was built in 1989, or born. And, yeah, that would be my comment. In a discussion of materials, I would be curious what people would say, but I've actually studied both materials and don't seem to find them one over the other to be that outstanding. They're not wood.
Right. I know that I certainly have my opinions about materials, but they're not necessarily pertinent per the code.
Right.
But I would agree, I think that the overlap exposure, you can tell it's hardy board. You know, you just can't, it doesn't look right. But regardless of that, would there be a motion regarding this application?
And he looks at me.
Anybody.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion.
Okay.
The other side.
I would like to make a motion to approve the application for 512 Railroad Avenue, which is a non-contributing structure, to remove the siding, install the LP Smart siding, and paint the existing trim.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, would you like to, oh, I'm
She
sorry.
made the motion.
That's right, I'm so used to looking at.
Yeah, that's okay.
No, I think I've just said it, you know, it's not a contributing structure. I think, I hope that it replicates what is here, and that you retain things like the detail of the brick stairway and some of the other
Permit is just for the siding. That's it.
pseudo-Victorian features that are here, and that's all.
And I agree with my colleague, and the materials are acceptable for non-contributing structure in the historic district, and that's it. Claire?
I concur.
Pete?
I said yes because it's a non-contributing building.
Deborah?
And I would agree with that. I would approve it for that reason.
I vote in the affirmative because it is a non-contributing building. So thank you. in addition to the other reasons. So, thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Okay, just a quick question is about the non-contributing, just for future and for timing reasons, is how come it was just not chair and staff?
Why it wasn't chair and staff?
Yeah, just for a non-contributing like this, that's just
Because
going back.
well, that doesn't play a role.
In contributing or non-contributing?
It doesn't,
So,
okay.
It's about the appropriateness of the material and if the chair is comfortable or not, and if it's been approved or not. This is a material that has never been approved before in the city, even for a contributing or a non-contributing building, so which is why it did not go through as, it was not approved as chair and staff, and it came through the full commission. If it had been hardy board, it could have been more something, but typically with a new material, it does come before the full commission.
So there's never been an approval of LP here ever?
Correct.
There was, just tonight.
Yep. Oh, tonight.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, tonight.
All right.
And it was, I thought that also, correct me too, is there also a component of it about how much money is spent on the project?
Correct.
Well,
That's
yeah,
what,
that's a $50,000 threshold.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Okay.
if the
All right.
project's
Just-
over
just for
$50,000,
my-
and
yeah,
in
just
this
for my
instance, there's also
information.
new
Okay.
material, it does require coming to the full commission.
Gotcha. Okay.
And generally, if it impacts the facade or the streetscape, the chair feels that it needs.
Okay, sure, okay, good, just so I know, so.
Did
All
you
right.
bring a sample by any chance?
In the, just a picture.
So is it wood grain or is it smooth?
Smooth. Yep.
And
Yeah, I
as
think
a-
that's in the permit as well.
Just to give you an idea, I'd not heard of this sighting before, and so I did probably 3 hours of research trying to figure out, and this particular sighting had a bad reputation years ago. So I got caught up in all that and reading that and going into great detail, and then seeing, oh, they changed the recipe, if you will, for how they made it and all that. But it's incumbent upon us to know what this material is, because I'd
Understood.
not seen it
Gotcha.
before.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, and to be honest with you.
So we do our homework
Yeah,
before we
yeah, well,
come
that's
to
good,
make
that's
sure
really
that-
good, I appreciate that. And I mean, if you look at it in the light of looking more like a historic and with the reveals that most of the older houses have, that's, the LP is definitely
Well, to let you know,
more
one
in
of the
line than
resources that
Hardy.
we do have is, it's a listserv, for lack of a better word, but it's commissions all around the country. And so we can go in and put in LP smart siding.
Sure.
See every discussion cities around the United States have had with it, the places that have really wet weather, the places that have high storms, and so I did a lot of that to read through, to educate myself and
Gotcha.
and say, okay, this would be something that would be
Suitable,
acceptable
yeah.
here. So it's not just a slam dunk because we haven't heard of it before, or some of us haven't. I'm sure our colleague who's done a lot of building has seen it
I'll
quite.
say too, I
frequently.
delved in pretty deeply on this particular product for a house that I own, not in Lewis, because where it is, no one knows how to install hardy.
Yeah.
They don't have anyone who's certified for that, because it's a rural area. And I found this to look just as much like wood.
All right,
So thank you.
yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next item is unfinished business D1, discussion on the completed historic district survey 2015 to 2023 and user-friendly improvements. So, I don't know if there's any.
I'll
further-
speak to that briefly.
Sure.
Go for it.
Janelle and I had met to look at the website and find out what kinds of improvements might help. When I went to the conference in West Palm Beach, which is why I missed the last meeting, the National Association of Preservation Commissions, I was able to get a lot of input from other people on what their website looks like, and particularly the ones that are not heavy text laden, that have got lots of graphics and very easy way to find out, is my house historic? And if it is, what does that mean? And what's the process we have to go through? So I'm still culling through a lot of that, but people were very generous giving me their stuff. And virtually everyone said, any graphic on our website, take it, because we didn't copyright anything. And some of that stuff, we don't need to rebuild and rework the wheel here. So I will, when I get back from vacation, meet again with Janelle and anybody else who would be interested in helping to get that together. My goal was to make the website much easier for the average person. In addition to that, and I should mention it along with this idea of user-friendly, they also gave me the examples of what they do for new people who buy in the historic district. The letter that they send, say, welcome, you bought a house in the historic district, and you have this type of house, and a form letter, as well as, which I thought was interesting, a letter to send to real estate agents saying, gee, I see that you have listed a house which is in the historic district, and this is what it means. Here's where to go for more information. So there's a lot of things that are sort of involved, but the idea is just to make it easier for people to get through rather than reading the code. Because the code tends to blow people away, and what we can have is something that refers exactly to the code so that they can link right to it, but it helps them understand what it is they're reading.
One of the things that always rankles me is that no one is made aware that there are tax credits.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that ought to be part of the process.
It will be part
I mean,
of
the woman who
process,
was doing the lift, if she got the $30,000 tax credit, would pay for the lift, as an example. And yet no one knows, she didn't know.
Well, the problem, the issue with that situation is that making it go from non-contributing to non-contributing might negate the tax credit process. Should it be found to be a
Her lifting the house would negate it being contributing?
That's what,
It's possible.
I have reached out, and I'm hoping for a response soon.
Right.
Because that seems patently unfair. I mean, I had to lift my house.
Well, I think
that was fine, you know, and there were the same strategic structural problems.
Right.
So I don't know.
And we don't make those rules.
Oh, I understand.
We don't-
I'm just
And, yeah.
pontificating here.
I have oh, go ahead.
I would like to see some mechanism for people being made aware that tax credits are possible.
I believe
Because-
there's a link on the website to
Yes,
that.
there is.
So
But
we
that
have,
assumes that
It's
people
very
are
passive.
doing that.
No, I understand
See,
that's very passive.
Yes.
It's got to be they get it when they buy the house, or they get it,
That's
you know.
why an intro
And what
letter
we've talked
would
about
be
too,
excellent.
the getting it when people buy the house is, you know, we've all been there. You get that big packet of information, and I never read it. I'm just going to be honest with you. But, you know, a thought that I just had as a brainstorm kind of is we're talking about, okay, contacting, making sure that the realtors are advising people. But here's a problem with that, is that here in Lewis, I have seen lots of houses that no one knows they're sold until after they're sold. They never even come up list. They never even hit the MLS. So I am wondering if a different way to approach that might be to contact the Delaware Association of,
Realtors?
yeah.
Realtors.
And
Well, we might
have
have
them-
If only we had a contact
No,
for
no, if only
someone
we had a
like that.
contact.
But we do.
I know.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I think that's a good idea. What kind of process would we need to go through if something as simple as maybe an occasional press release, even if it's just general information that you republish, you know, word for word for 3 years, like once a year, twice a year, that just says, hey, if you're buying in the historic district, or if you're planning to do work in the Lewis Historic District, you could find out about tax credits, here's the website, you know, just something general.
yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
Could
And
it
we
go
can
in
use
the
local
Lewis
newspa-
Light?
I'm not sure where we're at with the Lewis Light, but we can definitely put something in a local newspaper, which gets a
I think
wider
any-
audience, and that will just come
That
out of
would
your
be-
budget,
A press release would?
the cost for the press release.
Do we have any
Depending on what they-
leverage
how much they charge,
with
what they
realtors
charge.
at all?
Who's they?
Newspapers.
Well, they don't charge anything to submit a press release.
I just need to double check.
Yeah.
I'm used to doing legal ads,
Sure.
so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any leverage at all with the realtors? I have an interesting just anecdote that I became aware of in the last couple of weeks. Someone I know who listed their home, and it's in the historic district, and it's notable. And when they had the photographer there to document the house, they slipped in the Sanford map and thought that was really a great idea. We're going to put that in there. And the realtor pulled it out and said, oh, no, nobody cares about that. And I thought, wait. That could be a real selling point for someone who's looking for a house. So that could be a suggestion, if we can, to say, we have these maps, they're sitting on our website, they should be used, and there's a selling point for someone who's interested in a house in the district.
One thing that I'd like to continue exploring, shifting gears a little bit, is putting the application online. I know we've talked about that, and Janelle showed me, and Janelle showed us how the planning commission, or not the planning commission, the Board of Adjustment application is already online, and it can take its nice little fee that they charge online. And I think that would help with a lot of the issues that we deal with. Along with that, and I have a lot of notes that I've been taking over the last year or so, since I've been, 2 years, I guess, since I've been on this, and that is that there's always a lot of questions about process. Like even tonight, there were two great examples tonight. What happens afterwards, right? And just being upfront, you know, if, hey, whatever happens, you're going to get a certified letter from the secretary or whatever, and you're going to be notified by the building official. But there was also the whole, and this is the second time this has come up, the public hearing aspect of a demolition or whatever was involved. And mostly that comes up for just the reason that she expressed, that this is costing me time and money, and my vendor, my contractor, it isn't coming upon him and his livelihood to do this. And just being very upfront with everybody that this is the process. And just to state it out front, there's nothing to hide. They're going to find out eventually. But just that if somebody comes and they're going to raise a building, that's a demo. And if you're even going to suggest that, that's going to trigger a public hearing. So it's going to take you 2 to 3 months, depending on when you submit everything. And just to be perfectly clear to begin with. I don't know if that's expressed anywhere else for any other kind of city application or process, but I think for this especially, because this is obviously something that can bring out passions in people one way or another, and anything we can do to make this more transparent and maybe tamp down some of the bad passions or feelings people have, I think would be in the city's best interest.
Yeah, we can try, so Blue is working on an online form. She's got it almost completely done. I'm hoping I'm not getting daggers in the back of my... Yes, that would be lovely if you'd like to see it.
No daggers, it's a large hatchet. No daggers.
See, that makes more sense. So she's working on that, and maybe it's something we could add, just like, hey, if there's demolition, it requires public hearing, and this is, public hearing will take several months.
We had, in the LPC for like the subdivision code, because we changed it, we had flow charts.
You can do an H Park flow chart.
Yeah, I already have one all mapped out.
Okay. I thought we talked about that. So Blue's going to bring it up, and she'll
The
show you kind of like-
difficulty with that is there's so many exceptions. Like this is an unusual one. I'm not sure why it came before us tonight and not found earlier to say that, oh, this is going to require a public meeting. So because once I made the motion, I thought, and heard, I thought, oh, so we can't do that.
Well, we talked about
my
that.
motion doesn't make any sense.
We talked about that last time, too, because the nice lady on the beach who had her property raised on Market Street raised the same question. I think it was a procedural one, that it has to come here first. At least that's what I recall the discussion being last time.
So I think that's something we can talk to the attorney about and see if you actually need to schedule a public hearing, or if staff can just, when we see an application, it requires a public hearing, we can just go, okay, the public hearing's for that date. So I'll talk to Alex and we'll review the code.
Make it more streamlined to
Yeah, and I
have
think
the
definitely
public
would.
meeting tonight and take 15 minutes to do that and then gone right into our regular meeting. We could have
Yeah,
then
so I
made a
don't think we
decision.
would have had time.
No, I
If the
think that,
application came in on the deadline, we would not have been
It-
able to do
it
that if they had
missed
talked
the
to.
deadline for last month's meeting. That's where
yeah, I'm pretty
the
sure that was
bulk
the
of
case.
that 6 weeks came from, is they observed the situation, they were advised what they had to do, and they didn't do it. So we have no control over what
You don't?
what
Yes.
when somebody submits. We can just advise them that this is what has to be done. Here's the procedure.
Right.
Here's the deadline. Either you make the deadline or you don't.
That makes sense.
So the idea, to wrap it all up, is that we need clarification if raising the house in the exact same spot that it's sitting in is really going to lose its, status.
Correct.
Yeah,
And then everything's very easy if they say no. And then the last thing is Secretary of Interior versus the head of FEMA. Who's going to be in charge? Because if you do more than 50% renovation on your house that's sitting at 7 feet, you have to raise it.
Right. But I think FEMA.
And look what these houses are appraised at, like $35,000.
Right.
So how are you supposed to not be violating FEMA regs if it was indeed below elevation, a flood elevation?
So again, we'll double check that. Typically, you have to elevate if you're in the floodplain. I do not believe this house is in the floodplain, so they do not have to elevate it per FEMA regulations or the city's floodplain regulations. They do have that option, but I think that would significantly impact, because that's more like 18 inches. But I have reached out to a couple people, asked if about the contributing status if the house is elevated. So on the screens is the potential online form. So it starts with the application. It kind of looks like what you're looking at, like your normal application. And if you click yes or no, additional information comes down. So if yes, so drop downs. If the information's the same, don't repeat it.
That's great.
Well,
And it actually has multiple pages, just like your application does. So it's like,
It'd be so much
what
easier to
files-
read.
So if you want us to start doing this,
Well,
just tell us when you're ready and we can make this go live when Blue is ready.
right.
'Cause
Well,
Blue has some little work to do, and we want to make sure you take a look at it, because she did put together all the, I can't, the material choices.
so that's what I was going to say,
Yes.
is that that
She-
checklist.
Is in here.
Right, and does it also include with caveat language that some things may have been, what's the word I'm looking for, approved in the past, but that doesn't guarantee future?
We can add that caveat, and we can add something about demolition to here, to kind of hey, if you're elevating a house or trying to demolish a house, there is a public hearing required.
That particular house already had an addition demolished, though, too. Was that permitted? There's a piece of the front missing.
I don't know when that was removed. I don't believe, I have been here for that. If that was removed, if it was non-contributing, it doesn't typically require a public hearing. If it's contributing, it should have required a public hearing, but I don't know if it was through HPC or H-Park, and when that was removed.
Is it possible to get a URL to that application and just let us go in and look it over? That would be great. Do you mind sharing, or is it ready for sharing?
Okay.
I just have to finish something up.
That's cool.
Blue has to finish it, so maybe early next week, she'll share it out with everybody.
It looks great.
So you can take a
Thank
look.
you.
So
Thank
if you
you,
go to the
Blue.
all the pages are on the left-hand side. Yeah, I got that right, the left-hand side. So you can see, and you have to fill it out. If you do not fill it out, you do not move forward.
Awesome.
So it's like, you are stuck and you tell me what you want or no, or you do not move forward.
That checkbox table that you have up there is actually something I was going to mention, but on the back side, but I think doing it this way makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons, but I would be as comprehensive as we can be, because then they're doing the work, the applicant is doing the work for us to begin to create a catalog and a reference list for previous work. And if there's a way, I don't know where this is going, if it's just going to create a form, if it's going to get dumped into a spreadsheet somewhere,
I
or...
believe it'll go into a spreadsheet, maybe? We have to look at the back end and see how we're saving it, because staff's going to receive this as an email.
Right.
And then we just save it as the document, and all the attachments will be there.
Right.
So attachments may no longer be to scale, and then maybe we're going to start maybe going paperless if we're going to use this, because everything's going to come in electronically. So we'll start baby steps.
Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps.
But I also see, speaking of where it's going, the possibility of it feeding to your
examples, and
Well, feeding examples, no. The mapping system, I'm just drawing the ArcGIS.
yes.
And being able to go right to the property and just attaching itself as a document and saving everybody several steps.
Yeah,
and
if
building
this-
itself, basically.
If we can get this exported out as an Excel file, we can join that to
That would be brilliant.
a parcel
ArcGIS.
layer,
Yep.
and we can join that to ArcGIS, so we can have a map of applications going forward, just a standalone map.
Right. And then one you'd be able to, since you had the checkboxes like windows or sheds or roofs or something.
So it'll come up
then
as a
you'd be
little
able to-
pop-up box
Right.
with all the fields.
Right.
So, and you'll just have to hit next page.
You mean on this?
No, not on this, on the
On
online map.
ArcGIS, okay.
So if you kind of go to like our zoning map,
Right.
if you click, a pop-up comes up.
Right.
So in this case, if we're able to tie this to a map, and then you click it, and it does have an application, it'll pop up with that little box, and it'll tell you what it is.
To Larry's question about the tax credits, is there any way to tie that information into this, either note it or some way when they file and put their information in, it automatically gets sent to them so that it ties into this somehow?
I wonder if you could make a checkbox that says, I understand that there are Delaware State Historic Preservation tax credits available at, and then or you just make that the link, and then you check
Yeah,
it.
the link could be right there, because the link is already on the website.
Yes.
So as soon as they see tax credits, they can go to it.
So is there so we're talking about a full application
Mm-hmm.
that everybody would have to fill out. However, what happens if somebody knows, or I don't know if maybe they just talk to John or call somebody up and say, like the woman on Miss Sade on McPhee Street, that this probably is just a chair and staff, and maybe they find out it's not. But is there a separate application that's different for just chair and staff?
No, because chair and staff is more or less the building permit. It comes in as a building permit, we review it as a building permit, and then it's just part of the building permit review process.
How do we explain that to the public?
Maybe we can do a little bit more education on the H Park website, and
Yeah,
we
part
can
of the
do a little bit
flow
more.
chart would show
Yeah, I
that
think the flow chart would be,
Yeah, that it needs H Park review, and it's already on the flow chart that I've been working on. It's chair and staff, and then I would have the link there that takes them to telling you why it's chair and staff.
yeah, we can do like a
Or
chair and staff flow
Full
chart.
review by H Park.
And doesn't it have to do with the scope of the work and also the
The cost.
streetscape?
So
maybe?
chair and
That's it,
staff,
the impact on the streetscape, the material choices, the cost of the project are all factors that go into a chair and staff.
The code, though, simply speaks, I think, to the dollar amount, right?
it speaks to a change in material and dollar amount. So if I'm replacing wood windows with wood windows, I'm just getting a building permit. If I'm changing vinyl windows to wood windows, it goes through chair and staff. If I'm doing exterior renovations,
If you're
hardy
changing
board to
siding
wood,
material,
or roof material, and it's under $50,000, it goes to chair and staff first. If it's not approved via chair and staff, the applicant has the ability to bring it to the full commission.
or in the case of some of the items on the chair and staff report for this month, in the course of conversation between Barbara and myself, a decision's made to remand it to the full commission.
And I was going to say that the facade or the streetscape is not in the code, but the chair has decided to say she feels that if it affects the streetscape, that it should come here. So, but that's not in the code.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that portion is discretionary about whether it gets remanded here, correct?
Yes, because it's up to the chair and staff. If it's going to be approved that way, it is. If there is not agreement on the chair and staff, then it can come to the full commission.
Is the criteria clear enough that the decision can't be questioned?
Well, it's
Well, the
it's Louis,
decision can
Joe.
always be questioned.
Correct.
Well,
If the
I
chair
mean-
and staff says, no, you can't do this, They have the right to appeal to
Okay,
Yes.
The entire commission.
the entire commission.
okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so there is some discretion for the chair. In addition to what Janelle said, the code speaks to minor and routine projects. So what that means may mean something different to a different chair.
But in terms of the appeal process, it goes to the full commission?
Goes to the full commission, and then if they get denied at the full commission, they can go to the BOA or go to the commission again.
And what does the appeal process look like? Is it something simple like, well, I'd just like to have it reviewed? Or,
Well, I think two
We
of
submit
tonight's.
the regular H Park application at that point.
oh, okay,
Yep.
okay,
So,
different
like-
Is that their
application.
first hearing?
Yes, it's their first meeting. So then, so like half of your 4 items were not approved via chair and staff, so they just came here.
And some of the items on the agenda for the 18th will be items that were remanded from chair and staff to the full commission.
Well, it's not that they weren't approved, it's not that they weren't approved, it's that they were deferred. It's not that they weren't approved, it's not that they were denied, it's that they were deferred.
It depends. Sometimes they are denied.
Right.
And they come to the commission.
Right.
And
Sometimes.
that's on our
sometime-
listing.
Correct. Usually it's
agenda.
because something has been denied.
Right.
They come. We've now gotten more recent, we've gotten deferrals because a decision cannot be made.
Right.
But that is newer. It's usually historically been, something has been denied via chair and staff, and then it comes before the full commission.
A question about that process. There's one that just came through recently, and it first showed up as denied. But there were some recommendations made. And my question is, do those recommendations get sent to the person who's applying so they know that there are some recommendations?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
Yes, they were.
I didn't know how
The
the
one in
process-
question is on the chair and staff listing as 104 Second Street. It was originally, and I have a note to bring that up, so I can, if I may, jump ahead a second. It was originally,
I think we should wait for that until the
Okay.
chair and staff.
Yeah, if you'd like
Just
to
for the
have a
agenda.
full detailed how we do chair and staff, we can put that on an agenda.
Right. Well, we're talking about the process and user-friendly improvements.
True.
However, if
So-
I could step back for a moment, Pete, you had mentioned earlier about a possibility that we should consider some pre-review.
I think we should take turns doing pre-reviews of
Could
major-
speak to the microphone there?
I think we should definitely look into doing that for one thing. That plan last month, they might have paid 30 grand for that work that we just dumped. So if they had sat down and we could rotate whose turn it is and get a feel for what the expectations would be.
So that will require a change into the code, because right
Yeah,
now,
that's what I was
that's
thinking.
not allowed.
Well, that probably should change then, because it's
Yes.
really a
That's
bit
something
waste
we've-
of their time to come in here with the.
And I think
That
that's
didn't make
something-
the agenda, but we'll put, I
Yes.
think, October, I'm still looking for a list of priorities
Right.
of changes to the code
That
that
was something we were
I
supposed to do.
did not get homework from.
Yeah.
But I'll give you another month.
I can't believe none of us wanted to sit down with the City of Lewis code
Yeah.
to look for improvement, but we will do that. We will do that. I know.
I did submit mine, but
It ended up going to the planning commission. But yes, I take that back. A member did provide information.
okay.
Thank you, Deb, for.
Yes,
being
it was,
conscientious.
and I'm going to repeat it too, because I want to continue, I'm not allowed to repeat it, okay?
I would, I have a question. I guess it's about the user-friendly improvements in terms of clarity of what, my understanding, and it was 20 years ago, this coming October, actually, that the Historic Preservation Commission was founded, and in 2004. And at the same time, there was CARC, right? Commercial Architectural Review Commission. And those two bodies, at some point not too long ago, were combined into this entity, the Historic Preservation Architectural Review Commission. Is that correct?
Sort of. Because also the Joint Site Development Ad Hoc Review Committee got created to do site plans, which was more commercial. And that included members from H Park and members from the Planning Commission to review applications.
But you said it's an ad hoc committee?
It was, and now that didn't work out really well. So now site plan review has gone to Planning Commission and then Mayor and Council. And they, in both instances, if there's concern about architecture, they can ask H Park for architectural advice, because mostly what they see is not in the historic district. But there is a provision that allows for, to come to the H Park for guidance on architecture.
I was curious because that was my understanding. I could be wrong, but when that happened, I thought the two merged, and I thought it was curious that we haven't had, I think before I was on the commission, there was a property on 2nd Street where the Oyster House is, 108 2nd Street. But I found it curious that there hasn't been a single commercial. Okay.
Happened this month, and it was
Okay. The sign? Okay.
the realtor,
Okay.
real estate office with the
Okay.
driveway.
Oh, well, that's, right, that's the one that we're talking
Yeah,
about.
I think a couple years ago, we had more commercial.
Yeah.
And now we're into more residential, and it'll probably shift.
Right,
It's just, you never know what we're going to
right.
get.
Okay. Is there anything else about the topic, about D1?
No, I'll just, as soon as I get back from vacation, I'll be right back on getting some of those things pieced together. But my goal was twofold. One was user friendliness, and the other was public education. Both real estate agents as well as others, designers and architects and others that have a better idea of what H Park does ahead of time.
Thanks to Blue for all your hard work.
Yeah, Blue's really
Yes,
made a lot of
Blue, thank
things
you.
much more accessible.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Blue.
And they've already started on the website, because you can go there now and do a number of things you could not do 6 months ago.
Right. All right, D2, update on the endangered building list.
I do not have an update.
All right.
We're
Yay.
keeping an eye on what we have.
All right, new business, E1, discussion and possible action regarding the posting of yard signs announcing H Park applications.
So during your last meeting, you wanted to know, because again, our requirement for posting is for a public hearing, and you wanted to know if it was possible for staff to do that. So I have mocked up
Ooh.
a yellow posting sign.
Historic renovation.
So,
Smartly done.
trying to, there you go, Blue. So I've mocked something up. If you would like, if you think this is appropriate, and we would, about 7 days when we post the agenda, we'd go post each property. It's not a code requirement, it's more or less a policy that we're letting people know. So I removed the owner information because it's going to be in their yard.
Right.
And then I just put H Park, so you know it's very different, because this is our standard normal public hearing. So I made this at an H Park. If you're comfortable with that, we can order it. It'll be several $100s, because you guys have about 30 applications a year. So we could buy a box of 100, which will last you about 2.5, maybe 3 years. And then we would post every property 7 days in advance.
Could it be a different color?
So typically posting signs are yellow. Green usually gets lost in the grass. We could do maybe orange. I'd have to read out to we do not want red. That usually indicates something is dangerous, and we do not want to do that. We save that for when somebody has really big issues. But if we could see if there's an orange. But typically, posting signs are yellow, because they catch people's eyes.
I think the yellow is something that if people see that, they know, like, hey, something's going on with this. My only thing that I notice here is that, so it states that H Park and that it's scheduled, but it doesn't say anywhere application pending or something like that. I think
I couldn't get the word application in after H Park, unless you want to just say H Park, but nobody's going to know what that is, so which is why I wrote it all out.
Right.
And the letters are very close it's about being the right size.
Since it's not a legal notice, could we replace notice and feedback here with
So, yeah, I can-
application pending?
Or I can just put, get rid of notice, put H Park, and then application. Because we all liked, and the staff liked, it was like an H Park application.
Right.
But I was running out of room, so if you don't want
Or
notice.
application notice, where notice
Application
says.
review.
I think the yellow says notice enough. You
Okay.
don't probably need notice.
Yeah.
So we can get rid of the notice, and we'll just put application for historic preservation.
And the description would give you some
The description.
room to put something in.
Yes, so this is the same thing we use for all of our public hearings.
So we
for
need
H
another
Park.
verb, like application filed, application pending. I'm just trying to make it clear to the average person walking up the street in the neighborhood, will they understand that an application has been?
Usually, you don't see this until an application's been filed, and most
Right.
people, because right now, there's a couple on Chestnut Street for a Board of Adjustment application next week. So just tell me what you'd like. If you're comfortable with this, and if you're comfortable with the 100, it will come out of your budget. But I thought this
think
is
it's
something you
great.
guys wanted to go
I think it's good
with.
use of money. I think it gives us some visibility around town.
Yes.
Do people who have a BOA hearing, thank you. Do people who have a BOA hearing understand that this is going to go in their yard?
Yes.
Okay.
So we will have to start, because again, if you're good with this probably will not start for a month or two, because I got to get them ordered, got to get them, everything. So probably around November. And we'll just start letting the applicants know that, hey, we're going to be putting a yellow sign in your property.
I was going to ask, could that go on the application, just as an FYI?
The answer is yes.
Thank you.
That's an easy way to make sure they know.
Yes, because we can add that as well.
And I'm sticking here on the wording. What do we think for
Oh,
what is the easiest way to say this so that people will understand that this address is applied for?
So,
It's really no different than any zoning change.
or subdivision
And I think
application.
It'll also be on the
People are used to
description.
seeing a yellow sign that says notice on it, and they're going to look at it because they're all nosy. So I think.
They're all gonna
And they're
look at
going to
the
call their
yellow
neighbors
sign.
who
Sure.
don't live here full-time, and that's how,
But
yeah.
every state uses the same basic
Yeah.
yellow sign that I've been in, and I've lived in a lot of them.
Yeah, yellow's kind of like the go-to because it's not going to get lost. It doesn't hurt if you're colorblind. It's not that bright red, which usually means danger. And it's a nice bright, people are going to see it. And then the homeowner can take it down, like if they had been up for tonight, they'd gone home and taken it down and recycled. Or they'll bring it back to us and then we will recycle.
So, Janelle,
Yes.
there wouldn't be any requirement that if it went up a day late, you'd have to put a meeting on or
Correct.
anything like that?
That's
Good.
why it's like, if it doesn't go in code and it's just a policy, or we happen to forget one, we do not get in trouble. It's a friendly notice to let the public know.
That's appropriate.
Because it just gives staff who have to produce all of them
Right.
a little bit of flexibility.
Sure.
And that's why we're going to try and, like, last Thursday, we posted the agenda, or last Wednesday, we posted the agenda. We will do it the same day we're posting the agendas.
And for your concern of the people that aren't here full-time, I wasn't here full-time for many years. I virtually knew everything going on in my community because all our neighbors would say, hey, have you seen such and such? I think things move pretty quickly through this town, and in this day and age of emails and texting, I think neighbors hear from each other real quickly. Did you see that yellow sign?
Right.
Yes, the yellow signs go up, we start getting phone calls. Yes. So did you want to keep notice or move that up and then put like an application for H Park?
I like application myself. I don't
Okay.
know
Too.
It's
Perfect.
a little less.
It doesn't sound as scary
Right,
as
scary.
notice.
It's a little bit more friendly.
application alert.
Right. I did want to ask, we have a couple members of the public. I don't know if anybody had any thoughts they wanted to share. Don't forget to identify yourself, name and address.
Yep, I will. Thank you very much. I'm Tim Ritzert, and I'm here as a member of the public. I'm going to hold this up. I might not have been paying real close attention to the discussion, but are you trying to bring attention to the fact that there's an application on file, or that there is, wait a minute, Deborah, or are you trying to bring attention to the fact that there is going to be a meeting or a hearing? Because
I would
Can I answer that?
I would.
Yeah, please do, because right now
The idea is the neighbors aren't notified, and that's shocking. We had a particular house that was
That's right.
128 feet long.
That's correct.
Right.
And he had never addressed anybody
Yeah.
on either side of him or the back or anything. So
Right.
I think it's that and letters to go out to the neighbors.
Okay, so, but I haven't heard the
No,
letter
so
part talked about.
staff is
right?
just trying to slowly ease into this.
Right.
So we're gonna, yes, baby steps.
Right.
So we're gonna start with the notice and see how that starts working.
But the notice is that there's an application filed? Is that the purpose of this sign?
That's why
Maybe
it's an
applica-
application alert.
Maybe application hearing, because there is a line for date and time.
It is not a hearing, so I wanna make
Well,
sure that's very
But there's a
clear.
line for date and time, so what would you?
Because
So again, let me get back to my question. I'm on the floor, I have the floor today, right now. If you're using this format and it's saying location, date, and time,
It's pretty obvious.
what is that
There's something
for?
going on, right?
Right.
We could add application or meeting notice. Meeting notice, application for H Park. If I'm gonna get rid of the notice and I can
Right.
put another line or two.
Right.
We can do meeting, City of Lewis, I like the City of Lewis, meeting notice, H Park. It's all gonna be written out, 'cause, but we can do that, and then, and again, the city's phone number is at the bottom. And I'll come up with something, application for me, I'll come up with something if you guys are okay with that.
Okay.
If I understand what Mr. Ritzer, member of the public, is asking, is would this be for each of these items that we have coming up in the meeting?
Yes.
Or would it be for a public meeting?
No, so each,
Only.
the
Each
four
of them.
would have their own, and like you scheduled a meeting tonight, that will actually get the notice of the public hearing, because underneath where it says H Park, it actually says public hearing, and then owner. So there's actually a different yellow sign for a public hearing.
Right. And that
so-
goes up for every public hearing.
It's the same notice for every public hearing. That's why I thought we'd start with the same
Sure.
format, and then just change it for H Park.
Okay.
One more question. And I know that this is going to be a policy change. I like that idea very much. I like the speed that you're advancing this. One thing that you might want to include in your policy is where the sign will be posted and how it will be posted, so that the homeowner understands, the applicant would understand that it will be it's required to be located 3 feet above ground, and, blah, 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 whatever you all come up with. But you want to be consistent there.
Well, I was just going to ask, is there a standard that the city already uses?
It's wherever the poles will go into the ground. So literally,
3 minutes are up.
so typically for like Board of Adjustment, for Board of Adjustment, we try to get it kind of center of the property. If like there's a house right next to the sidewalk that's going into the house. If it's a subdivision, we're just trying to find a place where it makes sense that you're going to see it as you're driving by. So for H Park, it's going to be in somebody's front yard. A foot or couple of feet back, depending, because again, the difficulty of getting some of these signs, and it's a metal stake that goes on into the ground because there's stone or something else. It's like, okay, well, it's not going there, it has to go here. But we try to make sure it's always in the front of the property. Sometimes it has to shift based on what the ground is, the soil conditions.
Do we have to vote to expend funds, or is that just an administrative thing?
Nope.
Nope, good. All right.
All right, I'll get those going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, E2, discussion and possible recommendation to mayor and council to amend the code to limit the quantity I must say quality. The quantity of applicants reviewed at an H-Park meeting. The quantity will not exceed 4, after which the applicants will be scheduled for the following month's H-Park meeting.
So I believe this came from the chair, because this month you have 7 applications. We've never seen 7 applications in a meeting before. I think we've had 5. It was maybe 6. But that's something for you. This will require an amendment to the code. So this will have to go before, this will require a public hearing, and public hearing before mayor and council as well. So if that's something you want, are you comfortable with 4? Are you comfortable with 5? Because you got through 4 tonight in an hour. And sometimes it'll take you a little bit longer depending on, because we try to figure out, okay, I can look at the agenda, I'm like, okay, 15 minutes, 45 minutes, but it's all dependent on the questions you have.
The question I have is, there is going to be a second meeting this month because of this large number, and there's some complexity to some of these. Was that a determination between you all and our chair, Barbara Warnell?
Yes, the chair determined 7 would be too many for the commission to consider in one night. So we looked at options for different meeting dates. The one she could make was the 18th, which is why we selected that, and we have reached out to everybody to verify we can get quorum, and that's how that came about. So yes, you can have a special meeting.
No, the reason I'm asking is, rather than having mayor and city council say, you're going to have 4, you can have 5, but no more. The chair may look at it and say 4 of these are a slam dunk. 1 is, woof, that's going to be quite a long involved. I mean, and the chair could, fairly easy from experience, be able to determine much of that.
Yes.
So how do we build in that flexibility? And I do understand. I would not look forward to a 4-hour meeting in the evening. So I could understand. And some of the applications coming are a little bit more complex than the ones that we dealt with tonight.
How, first of all, are we trying to fix something that's not broke? If this is the first time in memory that we have many applications. Second, I would ask, especially if I were an applicant, how do you decide who gets to go first?
Applications go on the agenda in the order they are received.
Okay, that's fair.
First come, first served, basically.
That's fair. So everybody's going to be racing to get in early if we do this, which could promote the problem. But I think if
for the staff.
Right. I do like the idea of being able to call a scheduled or a special meeting as needed.
It just, the applicants that are received by the deadline have to be heard in that month.
Right.
So in this instance, you have 3 other weeks to hear it, and we just have to find a date. And we just have, like, in this case, both agendas have been posted. You have the packets for both meetings.
Right.
So that will happen in the future.
One other question.
Absolutely.
Would there conceivably be enough time for somebody to be added if they saw there was going to be a special meeting? Like what happened today, or what happened this month?
Your deadline will remain the same. It will remain 2 weeks before the first Thursday of, the H-Park meetings are the first Thursday of the month. 2 weeks prior to that at 4 p.m. on that Thursday, that's the deadline, that's the cutoff. If you're in, you're good. If you come in Friday morning.
I could conceivably see somebody trying to do that.
Oh, it's happened.
Yeah, sure.
It happens to everything, and, we try, if we can make accommodations, we try. If we can't, they understand that this is our deadline. We try to stick to our deadline to be fair to everyone.
I did have some concerns. Wait, is this working?
Just keep talking.
Okay, I did
You
have.
turned it off.
One more, come this way. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, I had a concern on this. In general, I feel like we open ourselves up for legal concerns with delays, that there is a correlation with that sometimes when people don't when people perceive that there is an expediency, that's when they start coming up with potential legal issues. It worries me that a procedural issue is, that we don't want to be able, have that many applications in one night, holds up an entire process of a real estate transaction, renovations, and big money is involved. This is downtown Lewis now. And that is my concern, because I see it in every commission, that we are more and more, the threat of legal action comes up. I personally, I don't like the idea that we would have 6 applicants, but it's kind of one of those things that sometimes we have a long meeting and we just suck it up and we deal with it, and then hopefully we get a short one like we are tonight.
Do you need a motion on this?
I don't think we want
No,
anything, we don't do anything.
Correct.
I'm with you. Fix what's not broken. That's ridiculous. We're
Deborah.
wasting everyone's time right now.
Well, Deborah, another thing you might want to consider, some of the other commissions have started their meetings at 5:30, so that you're starting early and you're not running real late. You're starting at what, 6:30?
Right, 6.
6, and that extra time might be helpful. Just a thought. And I don't know how you're all feeling about meeting, when it gets late. Sometimes meetings run really long, and
Sometimes it gets dark at night. I'm okay with that.
Okay, well, just another thing to think about.
I'm just one member, but I do have a full-time job.
Yeah.
Getting here,
Shame on you.
I know, right, man.
Well, and we could be more concise.
Yes.
Right.
I
Get
think,
through an
yeah,
application faster.
Yeah, a change like this is just going to tie your hands behind your back. You can't make an exception.
It sounds
So
like
it's
there's,
crazy, and if it hasn't happened before, why worry about it?
yeah, it sounds like there's consensus not to do anything. Would that be correct?
Yeah,
That's
because,
right.
the other option is we start getting into something that a second meeting can be scheduled at the discretion of the chair, but then there becomes accusations of favoritism and this and that. And it's inevitably something that will happen.
Right, thank you. Let's move on to to the chair and staff report. And I understand that, John, were you going to give a little description or what was going on? And there was the question about, which one is it? I don't see it on here now.
102 Second, or 104 Second Street?
Yeah, 104, F6, yep, yeah.
Okay. So starting from the top, 132 Washington Avenue was a request for siding replacement. That was remanded to the full commission. That is on the agenda for the 18th. 125 Second Street, request to build an addition on the second floor within the existing footprint, or the footprint of the existing building. That was remanded to the full commission. There has been no application received as yet. 701 Savannah Road, request to replace the existing natural siding with composite material. That was remanded to the full commission. You'll be hearing that on October 3rd. 314 Pilottown Road, request to change the color of the previously approved windows from white to black was denied. No further action. 512 Railroad Avenue, request to replace the existing siding with composite material, remanded to the full commission for review. You guys heard that tonight and approved it. 104 Second Street, request to add a wrought iron gate across the driveway where it meets the sidewalk. This was initially on here as denied. I had a email conversation with the chair yesterday. She made this a correction. Her email states, have a correction for the F6 chair and staff driveway gate for 104 Second Street. Please correct denied to read requested additional information. I have received some of that additional information. I'm going to be getting with the chair on that. 109 Coleman Avenue, request to install an accessory structure in the rear yard for use as a home art studio was approved. 212 West 3rd Street, request to replace the existing fence with one section of privacy fence complying with current city codes was approved.
Any questions about any of these?
I would just say F6, that being a complicated one and not something that's come up often, that this would just be my input, that might be one that it would be helpful to bring forward to the larger committee, just because it's not something we've really dealt with before.
Okay, I will pass that recommendation to
Yeah, I
the
don't know,
chair.
how do others feel about that?
I'd be interested in knowing what the discussion has been between the chair and what additional information was needed. Yeah, because
Because it's something that
so that.
someone has it, oh, I could have that, and on we go.
All right. Thank you, John. We're here to Section G, public comment. Anybody online? I don't think so.
Here's another chance for 3 minutes of fame.
Don't make me use this again. I can't tell, I don't know, is it,
There's nobody online.
there's nobody online?
No,
Okay.
they left us.
They left us. Going once, going twice, hearing no public comment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'd second that
All
that
in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.